Those of you that are new here, once you're in your spot, if you want to take your mask off, you can. We just ask that everybody put it back on if you get up to go to the bathroom or something like that, just to honor the guidelines and all of that. There is a bathroom over there if you need it. Jan knows where everything is, and so does Tammy, and so does Tracy, and so if anybody needs anything in the middle of something, flag somebody down, all of that. We would like everybody to be comfortable, and I will try to remember to give us a little break in the middle because these chairs aren't comfortable. Be careful, don't lose your strings. You're going to want those later. Everybody should have a string and a piece of stick. We'll get to that much later, but it's going to be, I think, one of our favorite things that we do today. In creating a manifesting workshop, just those words, creating a manifesting workshop, in manifesting the workshop itself, a lot of what I really get into, and those of you who have been to my workshops before will know this is my big deal. Let's get rid of all of the stupid stuff that everybody's tried to teach us through the years. There's a lot of stuff that gets in the way. I think we can all agree, our thoughts create reality, right? We could all go, if we don't believe that, what are you doing here? And so if we could all start with thoughts create reality, great. We have attached a lot of really ridiculous stuff to that. We have attached the idea that if we don't word things in an exactly perfect way, that it's not going to turn out the way that we're holding in our mind. We have created it to where the universe is either stupid or trying to trick us. I don't think either one's true. I think that we have to peel away a lot of that stuff. And then once we get past all of the new age psychobabbly junk that's been with it, then we get down to peeling away our own personal junk and all the stuff that stands in the way of it. Because when we come into a thing like this, we come in with the idea of, I want to learn to manifest my reality. And another way of saying that is, I want to start manifesting my reality. It's really late to the party to think that way. You've been manifesting it since you've been here. You've been manifesting it since you took your first breath. You probably manifested a lot of it before you ever came into a physical form. And so the idea of manifesting your reality, the workshop should actually be how to take control of and correct the manifesting of your reality that you're already doing. Which sounds like a great Shane style workshop. Here's how you're screwing up. That's how I should have an entire series of those. It'd be great. I'd be good at it. You should always do what you're good at. But the main thing about it is we're going to get down to some very simple ideas. And then the last part of what we're going to do is talk about some very fun ways that we can plug those ideas in. And the reason that I want you to get the distinction between those two things is the very first part of this, or a lot of what I'm going to talk about in the first part of this, isn't going to sound like I'm teaching you to manifest things. It's going to sound like we're having an entirely different workshop. I can say that pretty comfortably because that entire section is actually in another workshop. But it's something that will apply to what we're doing very, very definitely. Then we're going to come up with understanding that we can use that in any number of ways, and then we're all going together, we're going to create what a lot of people would call an intention. Some people would call it a spell. Some people would call it an exercise in manifesting. I think one of the first things we got to do is get over our hang up on language. Some of you have heard me tell the story. It was at a psychic fair years ago, like a lot of years ago. And I was giving a lecture about manifesting reality. And I started out by saying that over the next hour I'm going to explain that there's no difference between a Baptist saying a prayer and a witch casting a spell. Pissed off everybody in the room at once. All of the Christians thought I was calling them witches. All the witches thought I was calling them Christians, which, interesting, was worse. And the reality was that over the next hour I explained to them that if you have a thought or a desire and you go through some ritualistic practice to try and tie it to the divine and expect a different outcome out of those are qualities of prayer. Those are the three qualities of casting a spell. Same thing. And so as soon as we get over the idea that they're different, or that this works, that doesn't, or that the universe only responds one way. You know, let's pause on that one. How many people got in here? Like 15 people? The universe only responds one way? Look around. That's obviously not true. The universe speaks infinite languages and resonates at infinite frequencies and relates to each and every one of us in our own way. So this idea that we need to figure out the right language to say, you need to use your language. The universe will get it. Your guides will get it. Your angels will get it. Your higher self will get it. The shocking statement of all, God will understand. And when we allow ourselves to step into that simplicity, it's so much better. This first line, we're finally to my outline. The first line, you do not create your own reality. That is my favorite thing to say in this workshop because it's the first mistake we make. We all have in our head that if we get it just right, we're going to create the reality that we want. If that was true, our intentions and thoughts would plow over people. Anybody who was in the way of what we desired would simply be flattened. And if everybody was operating that way, we'd be bumper cars slamming into each other because we're all creating these completely independent realities. There's no way that makes sense. We co-create our realities. We throw our energy into the collective melting pot of the universe, and the universe kicks back out what matches the whole sum total of it. You know, there's invariably, if you're the one, please hold your hand up so that we can all make fun of you for a minute, because that's how I'd be. You come to a nobody's going to do this. Come to a manifestation workshop going, I'm going to figure out how to win the lottery. You think everybody else that buys a ticket isn't doing their own mojo of whatever kind and their own belief that their prayer's going to do it and all of that sort of stuff? I'll tell you about the one time that I did win the lottery trying to manifest things. My boyfriend at the time looked at me and said, well, if you're so good at all this stuff, why don't we just win the lottery? And I said, okay, you go to the store tomorrow at 1 o'clock and you buy a ticket. I want you to scratch off the middle bar of it, and I guarantee you will win. You got enough to buy another ticket. I had no expectation whatsoever. I just wanted to win. I just wanted to prove a point. And that was what ended up happening. The point got proven because I manifested the proving the point, not the winning the lottery. Because proving the point, there wasn't anybody else out there who was buying a ticket for that purpose. There was no conflicting energy that went against what I was doing. Had I tried to win big, everybody's energy was going against that. So the part that actually mattered to me, yeah, it actually happened. I was right, it worked, you know. But it really didn't get us anywhere in life. So the idea that we create our own realities is our first thing we've got to get rid of. We've got to get to the idea that everybody is putting into the collective creative force and everybody is taking back out of it as well. And so if your intention, which is going to be our working word, I'm going to tell you towards the end of this why intention is a terrible word to use. But the intention that we have, if it affects us and no one else, it's easier to manifest. The more people that it affects, the harder it is to manifest. So if I want to manifest peace, it's a lovely concept. I wish we'd all work on it. If I want to manifest peace within my own self, that's easy. If I tried to bring peace into a group of 20 people, that's a little bit harder. And if I dial that up to the global scale, how am I going to do that as a singular person, throwing my little energy in against 7 billion people, many of them that aren't looking for peace? And so if I bring it down to here, easy to manifest. Put it out there, hard to manifest. A lot of times we think, well, the thing that I'm doing only affects me. Let's say that we're trying to manifest, I'm a used car salesman now, and I'm trying to manifest the next sale. That doesn't just affect me. That goes against everybody that I'm in competition with that's trying to sell a car right then. And I don't just mean every other used car dealer. I mean everybody sitting at home has got one out front with a for sale sign on it. And so that is so much harder to manifest. If, however, I realized that what I wanted out of that was not selling a car, what I wanted out of that was the money that I got out of it. There's money everywhere and there's all sorts of ways it can come to you. Why would I limit the way that it came to me? And so we begin to understand that what we're asking for, we need to define that just a little bit more fully. If we did actually create our own reality, not only would be bumper cars, I just want everybody to think about this, and I want you to let yourself realize how satisfied it's going to feel, and then how absolutely creepy immediately afterwards. Everybody would look and act and talk exactly like you wanted them to. Because part of our experience in reality is all the people that we encounter. So if you purely manifested your reality, everybody would be a reflection of exactly what you wanted. Sounds really cool at first, and the more you think about it, it gets super creepy. You really want to go through life with nothing but mirrors everywhere you go. And I don't mean the metaphysical, oh, everything's a mirror. I mean, oh my God, it's literally myself staring back at me. Nobody would enjoy that. Nobody. Well, there are a few, and they're professionals to help them. Everything's energy. Everything in creation resonates at a specific frequency. This is all like 101 stuff. The cool part is that I was part of a group 30 years ago that was talking this way, and now science is proving it. Now science is showing that everything actually vibrates, resonates at a specific frequency. So everything we're going to talk about throughout this workshop is about adjusting our frequency. It's just about getting our vibration to match what it is that we want. And one of the things that helps with this is we have to step into a realization that we're not actually creating anything. We are magnetizing into our experience that which already exists, because everything already exists. If you get into quantum theory, string theory, quantum realities, parallel universes, I could go off on a very, very, very nerdy tangent on all this stuff. You realize that the theory is that everything that could exist already does exist. My mom and I are having a big debate one day. I wouldn't say debate. We were spiritedly speaking about different ways to manifest things. And my brother, in his way of doing, I think that's Jewel. Come in, Jewel. So my mom and I are going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, and I think it was something as ridiculous as, should we burn a candle or should we use a crystal? I mean, I think it was one of these ridiculous early on conversations. And my brother just very calmly looks at us and goes, why are you trying to change this reality? All of them exist. Why don't you just shift your focus to one that's the way you want it to be? The guy who never claims to be spiritual just taught the master class on all of it. Our experience that we have is where our focus is. As a man thinketh, so shall he be. Where your mind is what you experience. If you shift what's going on in your mind, you have a different experience, even if nothing's changed out here. And the minute you approach it that way, everything does begin to change out there. So he suggested that we look at all of the universes, all of the potential realities, as an old-time vinyl album. Just get to where we pick the needle up off of one groove and set it onto the one that we want. That is the most simplistic and beautiful and easy to grasp thing. And if you can let that actually make sense, you don't need anything else I'm going to talk about today. Chances are we need a little more. So when we go in to create our reality, when we go into creating what it is that we want, we need to ask ourselves, what do we actually want? I think this is where we go really, really, really wrong. Like really wrong. The example that I just used, if that used car salesman wants to sell a car, what is the motivation? And those that are in my yoga class a lot will know that I bring this up all the time. I don't care what people do nearly so much as I care why they do it. Because once you figure out the why they're doing it, you understand what they did, first of all, a whole lot better. And then you understand what they actually are doing, not the smoke screen, because we're all telling ourselves a story. I'm doing this. No, you're actually doing that. And so when we try to manifest, say we want to manifest a new house. We've decided that the home we live in is no longer right for us, and we want to manifest a house. I did this. Actually, the house that we're in and the one before that, the way that we got into the house was I had Scott write down everything he wanted in a house. He wrote it down on a piece of paper. That's where we started. We had a blueprint. I can tell you the last two houses we've lived in, this one is exactly what we spelled out. The one before was exactly what we spelled out, but the two-car garage wasn't attached. You know, we missed by that much. But the idea of it in that moment, let's say that you want a 4-bedroom, 4,000 square foot house. Big house, plenty of room, lots of nice stuff, okay? That's what we've decided we want to manifest. Why? Do you need that much room? Is that why you're doing it? Are you doing it because it's a prestige status thing? Are you doing it because it's an investment for your future? Are you doing it because you want to leave it to your kids? Why are you doing this? because each one of those things would manifest a different house. You could manifest the one that was a status symbol, that was the fanciest damn house you've ever seen in your entire life that you never felt comfortable in one single moment. You could manifest one that wasn't nearly as fancy, but was comfortable and cushy, and you felt like we had room to sprawl out, and it fits like, you know, your favorite shoe. You could find the one that you got an incredibly good deal, that some of those other things weren't true because that was the part that mattered to you. We're still talking about buying the same description of house. But all those different things are going to figure into it, and the one that you really mean is the one you're going to manifest. So you're going to say that you want the good deal, and you're really looking for the status symbol, and you wonder why you can't manifest it. You wonder why you can't manifest the fancy for cheap. Well, because the universe plays fair. The universe will work out some cool deals. I've had some amazing. I don't own one now because people are crazy. I've manifested 3 Harley-Davidson motorcycles in my life. Purely starting with a thought, shockingly enough, followed by my mouth, and then everything else kicks in, and there they are. When I got rid of the last one, it was a big decision. I was like, Scott, what do you think? And he goes, what difference does it make if you decide you want another one? I'll come home and there'll be one there. And you'll have a story about how you got it. That's how I live my entire life, but I really pay attention to why do I want it. To follow up on that one, the reason I don't have a Harley at this point, I realized the reason I wanted it was all the unsatisfied with stuff with my biker dad, and that I enjoyed the thrill of open air riding. It's almost time of year to take the top off my Jeep. I can get the exact same thing with 90% less chance of death. So I figured out what I wanted and actually ended up enjoying it more. Imagine that. And so when we decide what our intention is, what we're trying to manifest, we got to dig deeper than that. We got to ask ourselves what it is, and we've got to ask where we're putting the emphasis. So when I'm saying that the universe is not trying to trick you, or you don't have to figure out the particular wording, what I mean is I used to be part of groups that say, let's write an affirmation. Oh, put the date up at the top of the page so that Spirit knows that we want this to happen now. Really? Like I am desperate, I'll admit it, you guys don't have to. I'm desperately in the back of my mind pleading for the thing I want. I'm trying to figure out if I'm trying to make a deal at the crossroads with the devil, or if prayer will do it. I am desperate for what it is. I'm rubbing crystals together. And I'm not sure. Really? No, I know what it is I want. If I'm honest, go into it. And so when you dig down in there and you get honest with yourself, a lot of times what you're trying to create will change. A lot of times what you're trying to manifest will go away, and a lot of the particular wording will fade away because you'll realize, this will be really important later, it's how you feel about it. See, what we're going to get into, and the thing that will change everything, the thing that we've all seen The Secret, we've all studied and read the law of attraction, and we know all these things. One of the biggest pieces that was missing, especially early on, is they got stuck on our thoughts creating reality. If you want to be honest, it's your emotions that create your reality. Things can be absolute fact, and we have an emotional response over it. So our experience in life is based on our emotional input. Wouldn't it make sense that the creation was based on the emotional output then? If your thought, we'll take everybody through this. If your thought is this big, this is my thought, and I throw that thought out into the universe is going to go, that's cute. Meanwhile, if I have an emotional thing attached to that, the more I care, the more emotion, the more I've got to prove, the more something is, the whatever here, and now I'm like this, woo. I throw that out there, and the universe goes, oh, you mean it. Oh, this matters. You feel a certain way about that. We should probably deal with that. And it imprints and impacts things a whole lot more. If that wasn't true, why wouldn't we speak monotone to one another when we're trying to make a point? Because the inflection carries the emotion, and the emotion carries the energy. The energy is the vibration and frequency that we're trying to convey. And so when I'm trying to get you to understand what I'm saying right here, I'm trying to send a specific frequency that you're trying to pick up right now. That's the same thing we're doing everywhere. We're trying to manifest understanding. How is it any different? And so the what I want and what matters to me out of it is the biggest thing, and getting to where we're not telling two stories. I think I want the status symbol. I'm going to be honest. I really want the big fancy house with all the bells and whistles and the fancy, when really I'm uncomfortable in my home, and what I realize is what I actually want is the comfort. And if I let myself actually and you know, I'm going to people, no, I'm going to get the big house, and that's what I'm going to do. Look how cool it's going to be. Meanwhile, I can't get comfortable. I move into that big fan, I'm still not comfortable. And then people will decide that manifestation doesn't work because I put all this into it, and look, I'm still here and I'm unhappy. So I think when we get to what is our emotional state of being, we realize one of the big responsibilities that goes with what I'm talking about. The Bible, I love it when I get to quote the Bible. Have a prayerful mind. Prayerful mind is fantastic. That does not mean that you're supposed to be going around praying all the time. That means you're supposed to realize that every thought you have is creating a reality. Every thought you have is a prayer. Everything you say, everything you believe, every thought that goes through your mind, everything that you do, every part of you is a prayer that's going out into the universe. It's an intention, it's a vibration, it's a frequency, it's a manifestation that is looking for a way to come back to you. Now, on this idea of where we attach the wrong thing to it, one of the biggest things you've got to decide is, does it matter how it happens? My used car salesman, he only thought money could come in through a used car. That's an incredibly limited way of thinking. Why wouldn't he decide that he wanted a better income? And when somebody came along and said, oh God, you can sell cars, why don't you sell this? And suddenly he's making so much more money. Or that person that is looking for love in their life. Why do you want love in your life? And when they realize it's because they never felt that they were lovable, that's an entirely different thing than realizing that they were lonely. One can lead to the other, but they're not the same thing. So which one is going to satisfy it? What's going to do the thing that you want? If you want to have love in your life, and you want somebody that looks like Rico Suave, you got to decide which one matters. Now you can decide that both of them matter. You've just cut down the possibility of it coming into your world to a very, 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 very narrow thing. If you want to manifest a new job, decide the quality of the job that you want. Decide what it is that's the motivation for what you want. Unless the job title itself is what you're trying to manifest, don't get stuck in that. Unless the business is specifically the one you want to work for, don't put that in there. Leave it open to the universe. So here I was, this was a different boyfriend that had brought up manifesting. We should have a workshop on how many boyfriends I've had. We have this, it might be entertaining. And we will continue the L's after the break. What was I talking about? Oh, the idea that if you get too specific, and this is so absurd except it's real life. So we wake up one day and my boyfriend looks at me and says, I want a hamster. And I said, well, let's get a hamster. Find a place and we'll go out and buy one. So he picks a pet store in Rogersville. We live in Springfield. There were pet stores here. Okay, fine. On the way out, we're having a conversation about, I had been doing affirmations because I just had a lot of success. I just manifested the new job. And so I was trying to manifest a little bit more income with everything that was going on. And I had gotten stuck in that proper wording. If you don't word it right, it doesn't work right. Don't limit yourself by the words you're using, any of that. And so my affirmation was that I now draw to me limitless money from unlimited sources. Felt like I had just found the secret to the Holy Grail. I'd unlocked it. You could not possibly block me on this. I had opened it up entirely. We walk into the place. The guy behind the counter looks at me and says, do you want my job? It was just direct enough that, of course, I said, of course I want your job. They hired me on the spot. Found out that they didn't even have hamsters. All they did was raise exotic parrots. Those of you who know me love my birds. And they groomed dogs. I'm in. Worked for a week. Got my first paycheck. I'm driving back home. I've got my paycheck. All of that intention about money has worked. And then it occurred to me that the name of the place was Pets Unlimited. My limitless source, unlimited. I had actually gotten the name to manifest on my check. I'd gotten so focused on it being unlimited that was the part that manifested. It was a terrible job. It didn't pay anything. It was cool because I got to play with birds all day. But the actual job, terrible. I had written the affirmation, unlimited sources, unlimited sources, unlimited sources. The source of the paycheck was Pets Unlimited. I'd put the emphasis on the wrong part of the sentence. I'd focused on the wrong thing entirely. There was another one that a witch friend of mine was teaching me to manifest things. And I said I wanted a new car. And she said, what do you want? I said, my mother and I have always loved red birds, so I'm going to manifest a red Pontiac Firebird. She was like, great, do this, do this, do this. It'll be wonderful. I did all of that. No Firebird, nothing. I mean, nothing happened at all, like no movement on the field. I went back to her, this is like 2 months later, and I was like, okay, your stuff doesn't work. You know, because of course it was her, not me. And she said, well, do you believe that you deserve that car? And I was like, have you met me? I believe I deserve everything. What are you talking about? And she goes, do you believe you can keep it up? Can you afford the gas? Can you afford the insurance? Can you afford all of the upkeep on it? Can you afford to put the fancy stuff on it you want? Can you afford to do all this? I was like, oh God, there's no way I can do all of that. And she said, readjust your scope. You're trying to manifest something you don't believe you can have. I went back and I decided I was going to manifest a Volkswagen Beetle, dark blue. She said, why dark blue? I said, all the ones that came from the factory are light blue. I'll know it's mine. Put that thought out there. So these parts of the story always sound funny. This is true. Boyfriend, first one I'd mention. Out driving around, following a hawk one day. Oh, look, it's a hawk, follow it. Driving around, following a hawk. Hawk, of course, flies out towards Republic and starts circling over a car lot. We pulled in, and the very first car that I saw was a dark blue Firebird. That's like the two things came together. I went over and opened the hood. It had previously been painted light blue. They'd repainted it dark blue. I was like, perfect, it's it. Drove off of the lot with it that day. Had so focused on what I wanted the car to look like, I never once thought about the mechanical shape that it was in. Terrible car. Absolutely broke down all the time. Terrible. Didn't run for shit. But I had manifested the part that mattered to me, the way that it looked. So we got to figure out what it is that we're wanting, and we've got to make sure that we're not limiting what can come in to do that. If you decide that you want to have a job at this company, blah, 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 this title, blah, blah, I have to have that corner office, it's going to be hard for the universe to do that. That's way, way too specific. That's why when we all decide that we want love in our life, this is for all the single people in the room, we decide we want love in our life, everybody says, get the big list. Okay, but everything you're putting on the list is eliminating a percentage of the available people. I'm not saying that's a bad thing. I'm saying there comes a point where you put enough things on the list that there's no one left. I think we should have standards. I think we should have expectations. I think we should decide what we want. And I think we should have standards within our own personal life in that regard. I think we can also choke the life out of things because we're like, nope, universe, unless it's the one specific rare Egyptian model that only one person could ever have, and it comes to me on a silver tray with no effort on my part and a little gift card, then I'll accept it. Well, the universe doesn't care about you then. If you make it super simple, like you zoom out, I want to be happy. I love that noise. I want to be happy. None of us do that. We start telling the universe what it can do to make us happy. Well, if this happens, I'd be happy. Well, if that happens, I'd be happy. If these 72 things happen in this specific sequence, I'll be happy. Why don't you just ask for happiness and let it surprise you with how you get there? Why don't you allow it enough room that it shows you a way you can be happy that you never experienced before in your life? Why don't you tell the universe what you want and not tell it how to do its job? One of the biggest things, I mean this is so simple, and if you can get it, it changes your world. The only actual gift that I possess at all is the ability to get out of the way. That's it. Healing sessions, get out of the way. Clients, out of the way. If Shane has left the building, you are getting the highest quality session with me that you will ever get in your entire life. If we are at the moment that I can absolutely just step aside with her, even in this stuff, when I get to where I'm thinking about what I'm saying too much, that's where I lose my train of thought or things get off to a weird place or whatever. If I just sit back and let it all just pour out, every now and then, we're doing manifesting, okay. Just let the stuff flow. Cool stuff comes out. The getting out of the way is the big deal. Every little qualifier, every little description, every little specific that you put on it is going to absolutely change what you get. And it's going to change it by narrowing the field of it even possibly beginning to happen. One of the biggest ones we're going to go through understanding how these work. Self-esteem. It sounds arrogant. We actually refer to people like this as narcissistic. But there's actually a level that isn't narcissism that's incredibly healthy. I think I deserve good things. I have no problem believing that the universe should give me wonderful, wonderful things. I have no doubt. When I said that the very first motorcycle, here's the entire way that I manifested it. I put it in my day planner. Every day when I got up, I would look at my day and I go, Spirit, where's my Harley? And went on. That's it. That is the entire ritual that went into it. Why in the world would that work? I didn't decide how it was supposed to come to me. I didn't decide what color it was. I didn't decide what model it was. I didn't decide what year it was. I didn't decide how the transaction would take place. I didn't say anything other than, Harley, me, go. Client called me one day. I own a storage facility. Guy didn't pay his rent. There's a motorcycle in here. Do you want it? Sure. The other two happened in different ways, but no difference really at the end of the story. So how do we get all of ourself to match and move in one direction? This is the part that sounds like a different workshop that I do. Vibrational integrity. Vibrational integrity is my favorite thing to talk about. If you've been here and this is repeat, good, because the more you hear it, the more it's in your head, the more it becomes the way you live. We're going to go through these fairly quickly. What you think. Every thought goes into the collective and creates reality. Conscious thoughts, subconscious thoughts. When you get down to thinking about your thoughts, you've got to get to where you listen to that inner dialogue. You've got to get to where you listen to what's actually playing in there. Because the minute that you stop listening and start trying to talk about what's going on in there, you'll change it. Because it doesn't sound pretty, and that's not what you'll want to tell people that you're actually thinking. So you've got to get to a quiet part to where you actually hear what you're saying unlimited as much as I actually did. I wouldn't have been surprised when it happened. I would have expected it, or more than likely, I would have been like, no, that seems like I'm really like nailing that down, aren't I? Or when I walked into the place, I've been like, oh, okay, unlimited, this could have been the thing. I would have negotiated for more money. You've got to get to where, when you're looking at your thoughts, positively is such a vague word. How are you looking at it? What do you mean by positive? Are your thoughts leaning towards every single thing says, yes, you can do this? If you don't logically believe, if you cannot conceptualize it, if you can't create a mental construct of yourself in the experience, it's probably not going to happen. If you cannot envision yourself getting a better job, if you cannot think in terms of I deserve this, or have a clarity of focus of what you want, and this takes us into a very troubled statement. I see a lot of people that can't figure out what they want. I'm going to give you the greatest exercise in the entire world. Take a piece of paper, write down everything you don't want and don't like about your life. Take another piece of paper and write the opposite words. Well, on this page, it says that I don't want to be lonely. I think I'll put on this page that I want companionship. I don't want the job that I have now. I guess I should put that I want a different job. The crazy part is, seriously, clients all day long, what do you really want? What would make, I don't know. Well, what's wrong? How much time have you got? Well, if you're that painfully freaking aware of what is unhappy in your life, you've got a great starting point. Because until you get to a point of happiness, none of the rest of it's going to matter. And if you make happiness based on things, you're never going to get there. When you go to the internal dialogue, this is where I think it gets weird, because we have all gotten very good at speaking outwardly the right things. We've learned to say the right thing. I have a client in the office. Do you think you deserve it? Yeah, I do. They're turning blue from asphyxiation. You know, it's like, you could quit chewing on your tongue now. You shouldn't look like that when you say that. Then some people, do you think you deserve that? Yeah, I do. And it's calm and it's comfortable. And then you got to look for, okay, where's the other block? They feel like they deserve it. Do you think you're smart enough? Do you think other people will judge you? What is the inner dialogue? Once you figure out that inner part, once you figure out what you're actually saying and why you're saying it, one of my favorite things, we talked about this I think in the last workshop, the whose shit is it game. I've got this thought in my head. Whose shit is that? Well, that's my dad's, and he's not even in the room, and I'm not trying to get this job for him anyway. So I think I'll take that thought out of this equation. I think I'll change that inner dialogue. Well, whose shit is it? Oh, it's mine. Last time I tried this, it hurt, so I said I'd never do it again. Yeah, that's me saying it. That's my shit. I should probably deal with that. To complete that metaphor, I think we should all empty our bullshit bucket every now and then. You know the only thing that makes it bullshit? We put it in a bucket and carry it around with us. All those hurts, all those negative statements, everything that somebody said to us that we didn't like, every little criticism we had for ourselves, we take it, we put it in a bucket, we carry it around, that makes it bullshit. Sad part is, we let the bucket get so full that it begins to slop around on everything else in our life, and we start making everything shitty in our world. I know, right? Now that is a face of understanding. Once we change the inner dialogue, once we got to the point where we know what we're saying and why we're saying, and we come up with a better way to say it, then we take that and put it into our outer dialogue. We take it and we realize, and this is where it gets so cool, this itself is like a total sacred ritual. It also will make you question why I cuss as much as I do. Life force energy is the breath, prana shakti. So the life force energy, grandfather's breath, when God created a man, he scooped up the clay and breathed life into it. It's in every religion everywhere. If that is our sacred life force energy, then the intention and the thought that we put on it in the form of words is an intention combined with the sacred life force energy. That is a spell, that is a prayer, that is an intention, that is a powerful thing that goes out. If you want to get to where everything is clear inside, all of the lights are green, and you feel like you deserve it, and you feel good, and it's clear, and you know why, and all of that sort of stuff, you can simply speak things into being. Harley. All the rest of that stuff has to be clear, because otherwise what you're saying is garbage. What you're saying is manipulated words on the sacred life force energy. Now we're trying to manipulate the universe because we're not being authentic about what we're saying. We figured out the pretty words, but we didn't do the homework to resolve it inside. And the universe goes, nah, I see what you're doing. You don't get the thing. because you didn't believe you should get it anyway. You were just saying it. Affirmations are what we usually talk about with this. Affirmations are either spoken or written things. I manifested a job years ago. I worked at the condo downtown as a valet. I wanted a better job, and back then a better job was being a security guard. I want everybody to take a moment and think about me as a security guard. It's a pretty sweet gig. I sat at a little card table, read comic books all day. And this is, I never signed a non-disclosure on this. The vice president of Hammond's Industries would come by and stop by at my security guard table and ask me psychic advice about the business. The very first macaw that I ever owned was payment for readings that I did for Hammond's Industries. It was a great gig. Looked like I was a security guard. To get that job, I wrote, I bet 2,000 times on a piece of paper that I now work 4 to midnight with no direct supervision, working with 10 or less people, making $1 more an hour than I do now. I know, everybody's going, that sounds just like me, doesn't it? Put me by myself, I don't have to deal with anybody, and I don't want any boss. Sounds great, doesn't it? Everybody's like, how did you manifest that? Boss comes in one day and he goes, we're going to promote you to security guard. We're going to take you out of this building and we're going to put you over there in the office building by yourself. You're going to need this radio because the boss will be over here. The only way you'll be able to communicate with them is by this, because you're going to be by yourself. But of course you'll be in charge of the cleaning crew. There's 8 of them, but they'll be off on the other floors. Is 3 to 11 okay? You know, in my mind I was like, I said 4 to midnight. No, 3 to 11 is fine. Okay, it comes with the $1 an hour raise. Every single thing on that piece of paper. Every single thing that was there. Because back then, let's be honest, that wasn't a great high expectation. $1 an hour more. None of these things were difficult. They didn't affect anybody but me or somebody else that was applying for that specific position, and nobody was. So it was very, very easy to manifest all of that, because all I really wanted, the only part that really, really, really mattered to me was I didn't like hanging out with the other security guards. I had comic books to read. You gotta have clear focus. What you say is the next one. Everything you say goes into the creation of reality. That first part was our thoughts, much more the inner dialogue. Now the outward dialogue of taking that sacred life force energy on it, what you say isn't just that verbal quality. It's not just the spoken word. Thoughts is the inner one. Spoken's out here. Our words are the words that we associate with ourself. If you were to sit down, take another blank piece of paper. You should have a lot of blank pieces of paper in life. How would you describe yourself? What are the key words? Complimentary, judgy. Honest would be a great way to start. When you figure out those key words, you now know what your outer dialogue is even when you're not speaking. Because those words that you associate with yourself are the way that you show yourself to the world. They will show up everywhere around you. If on your page you write, well, I'm kind of a skittish person, then you're going to have to be very aware that when you manifest something that you don't shy away from it. That you don't create it never being able to catch up to you because you're always skittering away from things. You've got to get to where if you think that you're an insecure person or you're a fearful person or you're an angry person or whatever. Let's take it to the other side. It's easy to think about derogatory. What if one of your words is a happy person? And you start putting out in the universe that you want to manifest something to make you happy. The universe is like, check, done, you're already there. That's not the part that matters, you're already being it. So now it's about the thing that would make you happy. The thing that we usually say you shouldn't have focused on. So those words matter so much. How do you describe yourself? That sets up such a tone of what it is that you can get in there. And once you change the inner dialogue, then those outer words are going to begin to change as well. And the labels that you would put on yourself begin to change as well. We can change ourselves from being fearful to being somebody who is cautious, The difference? The cautious person continues on, the fearful person is frozen, stuck in their tracks. Courage isn't about the absence of fear, it's taking one more step when you're scared to death. We can get to where, let's look at me, I love doing this comparison. This is honest to God, hand in the air, real life stuff. My father is an arrogant, loud-mouthed, opinionated person that loves to tell people what to do with their life. I also look exactly like him. Now, the difference is, I wait for people to ask. And to make sure I make them pay for it. Because then I know they want to hear what's coming out of my mouth. I've watched my dad lose friend after friend after friend, after client after client. He owned a Harley shop. Everything, because he didn't realize nobody asked. Nobody cared. We have the exact same qualities. I have redirected them to use them in a better way. And that's not saying I've got it all figured out. I just know that his way wasn't mine, but that was the same toolkit we were working with. Better figure out how to build something different with it. When we get down to what we say, I think that it's really fun to pay attention to yourself of what you actually will say out loud when there's nobody around. And I'm sure I'm the only person that does this, so you'll have to theorize this. I have learned a lot about myself by what I say to my dogs. I have found that when I have a bad day, I'll tell my dogs about my day. And I'll find that while I'm doing that, I hear the thing that was actually bugging me. Because I'm talking it out. And they're very good listeners. They give me plenty of room to talk it out until I do understand it. And then when I get that, I'm like, oh, well, I can reframe that, and I can rebrand that, and I can relabel that. Oh, now I'm not having such a bad day. Now I can turn around to, oh, look at what I learned today. The fourth one that we've got. What you believe. Oh, dear God, this goes back to who shit is it? What you believe and what you think can be incredibly different things. I think I deserve love in my life, but I don't believe it. I think I should make more money. Then when I go to tell somebody I'm raising my rates, I feel all weird and insecure and all this emotional stuff comes up. That is a lack of belief. That's a lack of connecting with what you actually do believe in. One of the greatest lines you'll ever hear is, you'll see it when you believe it. We've gone around our entire life saying that we'll believe it when we see it. What a mistake is that? You know, if we believe it, then we get to see it. If we've already seen it, shouldn't we believe it automatically? I mean, we should be way past that when we get to that point. We should be to the point where the universe is going, no, it's real, see? We shouldn't have to do that. When we get to where we're living in the belief, we're into self-esteem and self-worth a lot. Because I think that most of us have had somebody, whether it's good or bad, of the motivation, telling us that we're not worthy. I think that religion is probably the biggest culprit. You fall short of the glory of the Lord. You are born in sin, and you, yourself, will never be good enough to get into heaven. And only if you admit you're not good enough can you get in. Man, that's a rough thing to climb out from under. Yeah. Oh yeah, my mom loves me. Who cares? God obviously doesn't. Well, that doesn't feel good because it's inaccurate. It's not that it doesn't feel good because it's true. It doesn't feel good because a part of you is like, no, that doesn't work that way. And there's a part of you that's just like, this makes no sense. I've got to rail against this. When you get down to your self-worth, self-esteem, self-belief, the word that nobody pays attention to is self. How in the world are you going to find self-esteem from somebody else? It's called self-esteem. How are you ever going to feel better about yourself through what somebody else sees in you? It's impossible. You can't. I'm not saying you can't feel good because somebody sees something in you. Take the compliments. Start there. Don't deflect them. Compliments are a great thing. Take them. Give them the opportunity to feel good for saying something nice. That's a lovely place to start. But when we get down to that self-esteem or self-awareness, self-growth, all of these words start the same way. It's because it's on you. One of the things that I was very fortunate with, and this did come from somebody else, but I took it and ran with it. My mom said this to me, and has said it a number of times in my life. I have zero argument whatsoever. It wasn't until I realized that she didn't have it that it mattered. She looked at me and she goes, of course you're as confident as you are. You've never once questioned in your life if you were loved. She always did. I always knew. I got a whole list of people who don't go on that list. There's a secondary list. But with my mother, with my brother, I have never once had to question in my life if I was loved. And not everybody gets that. I am aware of that. It was only when I realized that she made that her mission because she didn't have that. Changed our whole relationship. The amazing, cool relationship I had with my mom went even deeper, even cooler, even better. And I was like, oh yeah, I see why you make statements. She'll talk about how Sage Studio, she'll go, I could never do that. I was the person that went to their cubicle and made their paycheck and did their job, and when I was supposed to be there, I was there 15 minutes early, and when it was time to clock out, I went home, and I budgeted around that, and I did that, and I would never have been able to do what you did. And she goes, and I realize now it's because you never had to question yourself. So I get that that's a big deal. I had that seed planted in. Now, if that's not our story, then we have to go back, and no matter how loving and no matter how well-intentioned, no matter how good the motivation was, we have to go back and realize, oh, that's the stuff that goes in that bucket we were talking about earlier that somebody else put in my head. Here's a ridiculous statement that I believe to be true. Whether you had a good childhood or a bad childhood, it messed you up. If you had a bad childhood, you will spend most of your life trying to correct the things that you thought were bad. And if you had a good childhood, you will spend the rest of your life in fear trying to maintain the goodness that was once there. It'll mess you up either way. Or it could make you fine either way. I grew up pretty poor, pretty broke, not a lot of money, not a lot of extra stuff. I feel like any little extra thing that happens in my life, I'm the king of Egypt. I feel like I've got everything firing off in the world. My perspective is so different than most people. I figured out how to be happy without all that junk. Not sure I wanted it then. I think that some people are born with a silver spoon in their mouth and never can find happy because it's never going to be like it was when they were a kid with that. Never, ever, ever. And so when we go into that self-esteem and what we believe and all of that, we're back into not only do we deserve it, can we keep it going? That car that I wanted, could I afford to maintain it? No. That great big house, do I want to put that into it? Scott and I were going to actually buy a different house about a year ago. Decided exactly what we wanted. Looked into it. Could afford it. And then realized that could afford it wasn't the same thing as what's life like if we don't and we just decide we have everything we need right now. Kept the super low house payment and are just as happy. That sounds win-win. That was all about the beliefs because we believed we needed something bigger. We believed that we hadn't accomplished enough. We believed we hadn't arrived. We believed we hadn't shown the world what we were capable of. Meanwhile, what is my real motivation? Happiness. I can show the world how to be happy, and I can do it right in that house that I'm in right now. Of course, the last one on this list, the big one, what you do. I've had people, this is honest God truth, hand in the air. I have had people come into my office and say, I'm trying to manifest a new job. I have burned the candles, I've written the affirmations, I've done the self-worth, I believe that I am deserving of it, I can even feel it. Have you put out any resumes? Well, no. I want love in my life. I found my self-love. I have healed my heart chakra. I've got 2 pink candles that burn side by side over a heart-shaped thing. I have done everything in my life, but I haven't met anybody. Have you left your house? Have you joined a dating app? Have you gone out somewhere? Have you made yourself available in any way? Or have you decided that the pizza delivery guy is what you're trying to manifest? He's the only one that's been here in the past 6 months. It's true. Now I'm going to give you a real life story. If what you want is true love, and you know fully how it is that's going to look like, then you can actually let go of the how it happens. My grandmother Knox, after my grandfather passed away, she observed, I believe, a very traditional regimented 2-year observancy of being single. She then, this is the big part, up and moved away from the entire rest of the family and went back to Oregon, where her childhood family was from, without even a word. Sold her house, the one that we all grew up in, just took off and moved. She's sitting at home one night. She'll tell you this story, and she doesn't believe the way I do. She's a very churchy lady. We actually believe a whole lot the same. We talk about it very different. She's dead now, but she would tell you that she was sitting at home, thinking about my grandfather and how much she loved him, and that she was ready for a new relationship, and that she knew she was there. That was her way of saying this entire checklist. She knew she was there. The phone rang. She picked it up. It was the wrong number. She hung it up. Phone rang again. Same guy. Wrong number. Totally different state. The third time, my grandmother picked it up and said, "Well, you're either dumb or I'm supposed to talk to you." 6 months later, she married Lewis, the guy on the phone. So yeah, they can just show up at your house, but all of the rest of her boxes were checked. She knew who she was fine, she knew that she had been loved by my grandfather, she knew exactly what kind of relationship she wanted, she had no question, and she knew why she wanted it. In her own mind, she'd waited 2 years, click, check, everything's fine, all right, let it happen. And I'd be willing to bet that if I know her, probably the day before she said a short, simple prayer, "Dear Lord, I'm ready," and here's the phone ringing. Because she got all the rest of it out of the way. What you do is so vitally important. It is talking about taking that life force energy. Now we're taking it beyond the spoken word and we're taking it into the actions. And I'm going to show you here a little bit later where we can actually take sympathetic actions when we can't take the literal actions that we want. We can do things that mimic what it is that we're wanting to make happen and allow that to bring everything else back in just the same way that actual physical actions will happen. One of the things that I wanted to touch on before we have our break, still on the idea of action. Everybody, and you could say this about the thoughts and the words, actions are the big one on this in my mind. Who are you surrounded with? Who is it that actively cancels out or helps what it is you're trying to manifest? I love it when I'm in a reading, somebody's like, "I'm trying to manifest the love of my life." And I'll look at the cards and I go, "Don't you think you should probably get the divorce first, or at least tell the husband you're on the way out?" Because you're kind of sending a conflicting message out there. You're literally going out to the universe and saying, "I'm available," and the universe is like, "No, we've seen the paperwork, you're not." And a part of your own mind is like, "No, I'm not." You know, and then we have to ask ourselves, when we actually do meet the person under that circumstance, you realize that you weren't trying to manifest the good relationship. You're trying to manifest the torpedo to get you out of the bad one. I know, right? Suddenly gets heavy. The people you surround yourself with, they're going to impact your thoughts, your emotions, they're going to impact your actions, they're going to impact your words. I guarantee you every one of them has an entire set of labels that they use for you. Wouldn't it be great if you decided your labels so strongly that they were the only ones that stuck in other people's minds? If you're so absolutely certain about who you are. I am perfectly well aware that not everybody enjoys my personality. I don't care. And I don't even mean that offensively. I genuinely don't care, because I like me. And I think the people that don't like me should get the hell out of the way for the line of people trying to get some of this goodness. And I think we should all feel that way. And when we do, now we're in a space of deserving. Now we're in a space of being able to really say, yep, I deserve that new car. I deserve that fantastic relationship. I deserve it all. And it shouldn't be that, oh God, this thought will kill you. It shouldn't be that I have to go through some ridiculous proving to say that I've earned it. That's somebody else's thought. Somebody else, there's no baby in the world that's born with that in their mind. That is not a natural state of being. The fact that we live in a world where a child in school has to buy their food. You have to earn something just to eat, just to exist as a kid. I'm not talking about the adult that's not trying. I'm talking about a kid. This should not be a responsibility that falls on them. This should not be a problem. This should not get in the way of anything that's there. They're not responsible for what they did, but we're placing on them the idea that you're not worthy enough just as you are. And we've done that long enough that we wonder why people can't get along and focus, because we don't see worth in each other anymore. It's not that we've lost worth for each other. We've lost it for our own damn selves. So we can't see it reflecting back at us. When we get to that part, now we're talking about karma. Karma is the one part that messes up everything I'm saying. You can get all the thoughts right, you can get everything right, and man, you brought this karma into this lifetime, you're going to have to resolve that issue. But here's the coolest thing. I love it when this happens. This is my personal favorite thing of today. I'm looking through this outline and everything, and I get down like, intent. This is the focus of what you're sending into creation. Karma. This is the one thing that cannot be overridden energetically. Okay. This workshop was written, this outline was written in 2018. In that 3 years' time, I decided that that line is wrong. Karma is the one thing that cannot be overridden energetically. I don't believe that anymore. If the point of karma is the understanding of the lesson, and if understanding is an energetic shift within you, then it can be energetically overridden. You can get to a point, and this is where this is a totally different topic, but I wish everybody would grab this. Karma isn't that everybody gets to where they're singing Kumbaya, holding hands, and it's a big love fest. That is not what resolving karma means. My old yoga teacher and I, super close at one point, had a giant falling out, cannot stand each other at this point. After 3 attempts of reconciling that relationship, turning into her screaming at me that I'm a con man, and me screaming at her words that I won't use right now, we got to the point that I looked around and said, and we're done. I'm taking you out of my phone. I'm taking you off my Facebook. If I see you in public, I won't see you. You no longer exist in my world. Being a yoga teacher and somewhat manipulative, she looked at me and she goes, well, I thought maybe in this lifetime we could resolve the karma that's there. I said, I just did. The karma is that we get into conflict. We argue, we fight, we don't allow the other one to be who they are. We constantly try to change each other. I just ended the karma. We're not fighting anymore. We're not arguing. We're not doing any of this. I'm fixing the karma by walking away from it. And I feel absolutely resolved and settled in that. It's a peace that came over me, so I knew it was the right thing that's there. But if your karma is something that stands in the way of what it is you're trying to manifest, then you've got to ask yourself, what is that karmic tie? So a lot of people will be like, well, how do you even know that? It's the thing that happens everywhere in your life over and over again and shows itself in 1,000 different ways that you can't get away from. You step back and you look at your life and go, well, what is the theme? And when you see the theme, that's the karma. Let me give you a really good example. If you have had a string of relationships that ended in them running off with somebody else. This has happened more than once. You can see a pattern. You can establish a thing. Then you look at it and you go, okay, in relationships that's going to be true, but when it comes to manifesting a job, I'm going to need a place where I have some reassurance, a contract or something that guarantees that they're not going to run out on the deal is going to make me feel so much more safe and secure in this. Or if I'm trying to be a part of some group, what is my guarantee that if I invest in this, that I get something back out of it? And so we look at it, it's easy to understand the karma there when we're talking about a relationship. Then we realize that relationship doesn't just mean romantic. And we look at every relationship we have is going to go into that energy. What the repeating pattern is will show up in every part of your life. You have the person that runs off in the relationship, I guarantee you'll have a story about the job where they gave the thing to somebody else. The promotion went to the person other than you and you deserved it. You didn't get the raise because the money went to something else. The taking the energy from you and putting it elsewhere will show up somewhere else. In that moment, you step back and you go, okay, universe, I get it. There was a point where I was selfish and too self-indulgent and I took from other people. I made it too much about me and I didn't think about how it affected other people. That's the theme that I'm seeing. And suddenly it resolves. And the intention goes through and it works. We have to get to where we think in terms of what's pushing my buttons, what's pulling my strings, and then go deeper and say, why do I even have the buttons and strings? Because we all get stuck on why are they being pushed? Well, because they're there. Why do you keep pushing my button? Well, because they're there. That's what you do with buttons. You don't want somebody to push your buttons, get rid of the buttons. I want us to take a brief break, and then we're going to go through our worksheet here. One last thing before we take the break, it'll make more sense if I put this here. Borrowing an emotion. Remember I talked about the very first part where a thought is this big and your emotions are this big? Borrowing an emotion is probably the biggest thing that you're going to get today that you can apply to absolutely everything that's there. We all have had, no matter how sad the story is we tell, we've all had a moment where we got something we wanted. We've all had a moment where things worked out. We've all had a moment of happiness. So if you are trying to manifest something, you need to find the positive memory emotion that is closest to what it is you're trying to create. You want the new car. And when you were 8 years old, your parents got you that bicycle that you always wanted. They're both vehicles, they both have wheels, they both allow you to go somewhere. And if you take that feeling of being 8 years old, you knew it was a bicycle the minute you come down. You can't wrap them and make it not look like a bicycle. You already knew. And you even get more excited as you're tearing the paper. And then, oh my God, it's a bicycle. And you can't wait to get on it and go and ride it. And the minute you're riding, you're like, oh my God, I've got a bicycle. That emotion, put it over on getting the car. Get into that space, feel that. Get your affirmation, get your intention. Figure out what your inner dialogue is, what your outer dialogue is, what your actions are going to be, what the beliefs are. Figure out what the bullshit is that you've gotten in the way. Figure out who it belongs to, get rid of it. Then borrow an emotion and sit down and decide, oh my God, it feels like this. Car. There's a car. It appears. There's a Harley, there's the love of your life, there's the whatever opportunity, there's whatever it is that you're trying to manifest, because you've sent to the universe in its most basic language, because emotions are the language that go beyond words. Two people speak entirely different languages, have never even heard the other language. You speak Swahili and I speak Sanskrit. If I start laughing, you know what I mean. If I start crying, you know what I mean. If I reach out to hug you, you know what I mean, you know what that feeling is. We didn't share any words in common whatsoever. So the emotion is the most primal basic language of the entire universe. And so when we borrow that emotion, we tack it onto what we want, and we throw it out there, the universe is, now you're speaking my language. Here's the thing. No, and you don't even care how you get it. Here's 5 of them. So they're coming from every direction that you're looking at. Here's a real simple visualization, then we'll take a break. Jan's seen me do this a number of times. If you're ever at my house and a thunderstorm rolls in, I have one in that corner. I have staffs. I'll take a staff and go out there and form that thought of what it is I want. Grab that emotion that goes with whatever I want. Send it all up into the clouds. Every one of those is an opportunity for what I want, falling from the sky, landing all around me. And I'll stand out there and it's all just falling on me, and I'm being covered with the intention that I've put out there. And I look at it, I'm like, that's a hell of a lot of energy that's up there. How about we direct it where we want it to go? I'm going to give it every little drop that hits the ground is just another chance for what I want to happen. It's such a cool visualization because you can see the energy, you can see the power, you're connected with nature, and you have not decided, it's all around you. You're not giving any thought to how it happens or what it even looks like. You're realizing there are countless ways that this could manifest. All I got to do is let it fall on me. Let's take a 10-minute break. Part of things. Of course, a lot of it goes with stories, but the stories will get the point across. Now that we understand how to get down to what we're actually trying to create, that's what the entire first part is about. We really misunderstand what we're trying to manifest. Once we understand what we're trying to do, then we realize that there's any number of ways that we can go about putting that into place. So we boiled it down to what matters to us, where the blocks come from, all that work through. This is a very, 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 very limited partial list. What we're going to get into is, in many ways, what's called sympathetic magic. And the reason it's called that is because we use objects, thoughts, images to sympathetically create the energy of what we're trying to create. And so once we've figured out what those intentions are, and we're going to go through a worksheet again with it, we realize that affirmations is one of the biggest tools that we talked about, coming up with the words, being able to speak it into reality. I have on my phone in my notes, I have a thing that I call my badass list, which is, and it gets updated every day, and it's the list of things that I need to do this day so I can feel like a badass. And it's just me talking to me in my own language, and there's a set group of things in there, and then here's the stuff I'm working on right now. One of the ones that's been in there for the past month is speak things into being. Because I'm pretty clear on what I want, and I've worked through a lot of the stuff in there, and I'm pretty good at getting to where just the will and the word, put it out there and watching it manifest. And it actually gets to where it's a very fun game if you're willing to do it with just little things. I always park close to the door. Because when I leave, I always picture parking close to the door. Years ago, I'd go and visit Betty out at Hilltop, and I'd go out there in the middle of winter and terrible snow and ice and all of this, and before I get ready to go home, she'd go, okay, and she'd reach her hands out, and we'd sit there, and we'd both picture me pulling into my driveway perfectly safe and sound. Never once got stuck, never a problem. So the next one that falls into is visualization, being able to visualize something, and this is a great moment to interject this. If you're not a visual person, like if you don't see visually, you can't get those real strong images, who cares? It doesn't mean something's wrong, it means use something else on the list. If you're not good with spoken word, of course I'm going to speak things into being. I never quit talking. It's the number one thing I do. It's how I make my living. It's how I connect with people. It's how I move energy. Of course I'm going to speak it into being. If we can get that visualization going, that's a great thing. Vision boards. You know, I think they used to call them treasure mapping, vision boards. You know, let's make a collage of all the stuff that we want and put it up there. It's really cool when you actually do this. I've done workshops where we've made those. We just brought in a bunch of magazines and taken out what we want, cut out the keywords and everything else and all that. About it is 6 months later, a year later, is when people send me emails about, remember when we did the thing? I finally took the last picture off the board. You know, when you hear something like that and you're like, yeah, I remember yours. You had a lot of pictures. Yeah, I know, and it all worked. That's where it gets really, really cool. Candle work is one of the big ones I actually want to talk about. That's why I've got some of this stuff here. We're going to do a candle magic workshop coming up, like an entire workshop devoted to working with candles. But the quick, super fast overview of working with candles. I don't care how big they are. You guys have seen the, like the Catholic prayer candles? They actually make clear ones. You can get them with Mary and all the saints and Michael and all of them on them. You can get clear glass ones. Those and a Sharpie marker are one of the most powerful things that you can ever use to hold your intentions. You literally write on it your affirmations, the symbols that represent what you want, the whatever. You put your intention, your prayer, your focus all the way around it. Then you light it. And the beautiful part is that you can see energy transforming wax into light and heat. You have the very embodiment of transformation on an energetic level that is shining a light through all of the words and intentions and thoughts that you have, shining them out into your environment. Which would bring us to the 101 lesson. Take the warning labels off of your candles. That's a shitty thing to put out into your world. It says right on there, threat of fire. Take those off. You're not trying to manifest that. In the realm of candles, and we're doing the crash course here. My intention, I should probably state this because we're going to use this as an example. We happen to be sitting in a yoga studio. We happen to be in the age of COVID. We have very much honored all of the COVID standards and mandates and all of that sort of stuff. And I believe as people are getting vaccinated and all of that, they will be opening it up to where we can once again have full yoga classes instead of just where the tape is. And while people have very mixed feelings on that, being a studio owner who pays for his life by having people here doing yoga, I have a certain thought about it. And so my intention is going to be on growing the studio. And when I say that, I don't just mean the yoga, I mean growing Sage. It's not going to get physically bigger, but growing it to where we can serve our community even better. So the reason I picked this particular candle out of our shop over there is because it's purple. And the reason that purple mattered to me is because purple is the most spiritual vibration, and if you're somebody who's going to fit at Sage, you're going to have a spiritual perspective to things, or you're not going to like a single thing we do around here. This one worked out quite nicely because it also happens to say abundance on it. Now, if I can take and put abundance and helping people through a deeper sense of spirituality and put that all in one place, that's a lot of wins. That's a whole bunch of wins in one place. And it's not just about making more money. That means you get to do more things to help more people. So this begins something that begins to feed its own self. So this one, I might take a pocket knife and carve a little Om symbol in it. I might take it and write out an affirmation and put it under the base, put the candle in to charge it up. We're talking about how to fuel our intentions now. I might decide that this candle's better because it's made out of beeswax, which is a nice natural organic substance, and I don't want fake people here. I might decide to get a white candle because I'm not trying to tell the universe anything in specific. Oh, trust me, when it comes to here, I'm saying specifics. Well, we like nice people. But we decide that the candle that is appropriate matches because it's the color or intention of what we're trying to do. And if we don't know how to pick a color for that, most of us have studied chakras to a certain degree. And the chakra colors, or this chart that I've made, if we look here to find out what's going on and we come over here to find out what chakra, well, we could also look here at the color and see what it's going to affect and do. So we could come down this list and, oh, here's what I'm working on. That's the color candle I need. And it gives us a way to go into the color therapy of things very, very easily. And we can actually use the different candles. We could use different crystals. If we're trying to manifest, let's say we're trying to manifest that relationship into our life. Best love spell in the world? Love yourself. No, that's actually it. That's all. Just love yourself. Most powerful love spell in the world. Start loving yourself. Everybody else will. What choice do they have? This is labyrinth. Can you see the pretty? So the reason that I picked this one is because it's called a wizard's stone. It is literally a stone of manifesting. It is the sorcerer's stone out of all the different rocks that we use. And the reason I like it is because that flash, it looks like nothing's there. It's dark and we manifested light. That in one moment you don't see it, in the next moment you do see it. So this is a very powerful stone for that sort of a thing. So if I were to take this and use it for my intention, I might think the intention was growing the studio, right? I used the one of finding love. It's all about relationships. I'm just sit here. Facing me, it's totally dark right now. It shines. Now that I can see, you're going to see and be drawn over into this space. Some of you were at work. Billboard. Does anybody remember the billboard? I put up a billboard once. I can't afford a billboard. Any of you that have ever looked into billboards, a lot of them are about $3,000 a month with about a 6-month commitment. I didn't have that kind of money. I decided I wanted a billboard though. So I got out my computer and I printed off a map of Springfield and I printed off what I wanted my billboard to look like, and I put little push pins everywhere that I wanted my billboard to be, and I put a little wolf over in the west so that he could howl at everybody to make them look at the billboard, and I put a hawk over in the east so it could scream at everybody and make them look over at the billboard, and I sat there and I shook my rattle out and I burned a candle and I decided it was all done and all of that sort of stuff. After about a month, I was sitting with clients and, how did you find me anyway? Well, I saw your billboard. You came into my bedroom and looked at the map that I had? No. She thought she'd actually seen a billboard that said Shane Knox, and that's why she contacted me. I'd energetically created something real enough that somebody else saw it. If we get in this next one, the candle work, find the color, find the purpose, carve into it, write on it. Short answer, have a reason it's the one you picked. I don't care what your reasoning is. Your reasoning doesn't have to be my reasoning. Have a reason it's the one you picked. Well, I got the great big 3-wicked one because this is a big deal. Okay. I got the little bitty tea light because I didn't want the big deal to seem that big. Okay. Two completely opposite answers, two completely different candles, but they both had a reason why you picked it. The reason makes it matter. If you put meaning with everything, suddenly everything's meaningful. That's what we're going for. Another way that you could go into it, I've used this myself, and I've told this other story so much, voodoo dolls. Now you say that and people get all kind of weird and look at you side-eyed. Did you realize that voodoo dolls were originally used for healing? Voodoo dolls were originally used to bless people. And as with all things, when we figured out that we could do good with something, we figured out we could do bad with it too. My friend Jesse that came to me for years and said, I want a husband, I want a relationship. And I said, no relationship for you. She finally came back one day. I said, it's time to go to work, you're ready. She'd finally got all the other stuff on the list. Let's go to work. She's very handy and crafty. I had her create a doll. She brought it in and we stuffed the doll with smudge mix, little scrolls of all the things that she wanted in her partner, different crystals. We actually put a heart in it. She sewed it up. She's very into Amish stuff, so she made an Amish doll. No buttons, no zippers, fasten its clothes, all of its little do-rag on its head. Here's the part you need to get. Action. How did she fuel that intention? She bought another pillow and put on her bed, and the doll slept next to her. She set an extra plate at the dinner table every night and set the doll at the table. She seat belted the doll into the car when she went places. When she called me with, "You are not gonna freaking believe this," and came in and showed me a picture of the then new boyfriend who was wearing the outfit the doll had on, including the do-rag. We teased him for the next year that he didn't exist until we made him. That might have been why the marriage didn't work. No. But he did. He showed up. It looked exactly like the thing. She incorporated it into everything she was doing. She made it so much a part of her life and emotionally connected with it. Love you. Good night. Emotionally connected with it. There it is. They have an amazing son together. The marriage didn't work, but they have a better relationship now than they did when they were married. Chanting is a great way to put energy into something. Singing is a great way to put energy into something. Dance something into being. Why aren't we doing this more? Ritual, drumming, yoga. Today everybody came into yoga and we talked about set a goal. Now take every bit of energy that we do in class and direct it towards that goal. And if you've never been to one of my yoga classes, you will realize there is an emotional component. Trying to suppress the urge to murder me. So if we grab our, some other things, just real quick, before we go into this. Incense. I never light an incense at my house just because I want something to smell different. Put that intention on it, then light it. Now my entire room is filled with my intention. Tarot cards. I'm going to do an entire workshop on this one. Base understanding of tarot? Somewhat? Know that there's a book with the meanings? Whatever you're trying to manifest, pull out the cards that are the embodiment of what you're wanting to manifest, put them under a candle. You want to create a new job? The Ace of Pentacles is new job. The Three of Pentacles is satisfying work. And the Magician card says creating things of your own hand. I'd throw the Wish card in there because it means happiness. If it was me, I'd probably throw the Nine of Pentacles in there because it means prosperity. I'd take all of those, burn a candle on it, and expect my job to show up. You want love in your life? Ace of Cups, the Lover's card. And depends how far you want to take it. You could throw the Justice card in there and turn it into a marriage. You take whatever the symbology is that you're wanting here, and you know, if the tarot can talk about any single part of a person's life, then we can use it to manifest any single part of our life. And again, I'm saying you could do this with a candle. You could do this by beating a drum over that set of cards that you set out there. You could set them up in your mirror so that when you look at your reflection, that's what's reflecting back at you. You could sit there and have a tattoo of it put on and make it very much a part of who you are. You can take things that big or that big with what it is you're trying to do. Just trying to pour energy into it. The reason I brought this out is because Jan has put these together. This isn't what you're sticking stringer for, but this is for house clearing. She has made a wonderful little bundle that already has an intention and instructions of what to do with it. She's taken a thought, clearing negativity from you or your home, and put together a handy little bundle to be able to do all of that. And I wanted to bring it in because you can see how simple that is. Look how absolutely simple, but everything here was done with meaning, and she held that intention the entire time she was putting it together, even tying that knot around all of it to hold it together. That's going to be very important. That's called foreshadowing. I don't think it is when you actually call it foreshadowing, but that's a different thing. If you look at your manifestation worksheet, we're going to zip through this part because we want to get to our last thing we're going to do because it's the cool, fun part of the whole thing. What do you wish to manifest? We're going to race through this, but write down what it is you want to manifest. Mine is going to be grow the studio. And you can go back and redo this. We're just going to get the general idea here. What thoughts do you have or need to adjust for this to work? So actually acknowledge, what stupid, limiting thoughts do you have going through your head that's stopping you from having what it is you want? Are they your thoughts? Are they somebody else's thoughts? What are they? Be honest with yourself. What are the good thoughts that you have? And once you do that, I want everybody, this is the most important part for what we're doing today, I want you to come up with one word or one simple statement that is the perfect way to say what it is you're creating. The most simplistic, non-limiting, don't control anything other than the part that matters. Decide really, really, really what you want, the only kernel of it that matters. Give me a single word or a very short sentence. This is it. And I'm going to help you out here. Since I know what I mean by growing the studio, mine's simply going to be grow studio. Because I know what I mean by that. And if I know what I mean by that, the universe knows what I mean by that. Because I'm part of the universe. Next line. How can your inner and outer dialogues better reflect what you wish to create? So you got to figure out how you trash talking yourself. How are you saying it wrong? How is it you're communicating something different? How have you labeled yourself in a way that does not allow you to manifest what it is that you're trying to create? And like we did before, what's the one word or the one line that would embody the better thing? What's the thing you're going to say inside of yourself? What's the thing you're going to say outside of yourself? Getting it down to one word, one phrase, couple words, whatever you've got there. Next line, what beliefs about yourself need change to match your intentions? Same thing, whose beliefs are they? Are they even your beliefs? Do you really even believe that, or are you just repeating what somebody else has thrown on you? And get it down to the affirmative. I'll give you an example. I firmly and fully believe that Sage Studio has something to offer and that more people should come here and get some of it. I believe that. And I don't mean just me. We've got all sorts of cool people here doing all sorts of amazing things. I see people get things from the other members that show up here. List some direct actions you can take towards your goal. I could do more Facebook posts. I could do some videos of me doing yoga. I could go and participate more in the yoga community. I'm going to be, here's a shameless self-promotion. I'm going to be on Power 96.5 next Tuesday morning at 8 o'clock with Foch. I'll probably be talking about the studio.
That's so very cool.
Yeah. They had me on and I think they got a little more than they had anticipated. They decided I should come back. Our next one. Choose 1 to 3 energetic practices that you're going to use to charge your intentions and your expectations. The first thing I want you to write down is stick and string. Then I want you to think, what are 2 other ones? Are you going to dedicate your incense to it? Are you going to get a candle? Are you going to play with tarot cards? Are you going to sit and do affirmations? Are you going to make a vision board? Come up with 3 things you're going to actually do. Energetic practices. And then I want you to write down, what is the emotion you're going to borrow that powers this thing? Where was the moment in your life where you had the feeling that you would want to have if your intention became your truth? Where is it that you got the thing that is most like what you're trying to manifest? Where is the feel good? I don't care if you were a little bitty kid. I don't care if it's something that doesn't make sense to anybody else. I don't care if it's a guilty pleasure that you don't want to tell anybody else because they'd think you're terrible. Oh, we've all got those. Jan's writing hers down now. Now, once we've got that written down, let's go back to our very first part. When I said that vibrational integrity is about the 4 lines of energy, what we think, what we say, what we do, what we believe. As a shaman, I actually practice what's called a 7-direction path. Those 4 directions: Earth Mother below us, which is all potential; Sky Father above us, which is the activating principle that brings potential into reality; and the 7th direction is within. It's one of my favorite parts to talk about because I like being in the gay guy in the room that explains that when a man and a I was talking to somebody the other day and I was like, the creational force of the universe, the life force energy is sexual energy. Why would you say it's sex energy? Because sex creates babies. It literally creates life. You know, gay guy explaining this. Should not have to. Certain things should not have to fall to me. So if we realize that unlimited potential of Earth Mother, literally the place that we want this thing to manifest, is impregnated by that spiritual intention. Earth Mother intersected by Sky Father is literally the form of the cross. It's the form of the cross that was around long before Christianity. It's called a solar cross. It's equal lines. And it talks about the intersection of the physical plane with the spirit world. Now, this is your energy. This string that we've got. What we're entering into here is technically called knot magic. K-N-O-T, magic. Because we're going to tie knots and we're going to bind what we are tying in those knots to our own self. Now the great part of it is, because of the area that we live in, you can look at people and you go, you don't have to worry, it's not magic. I was waiting for somebody to catch that one. So we decide what we want. This is what we want. I want the studio to grow. That's my intention. That's right here in this string. So I'm going to visualize that. I'm going to come up with words. If I wanted to, I might actually infuse that into my string with something that was there to give it that sort of an energy. Then I might make some statement. I make this string as my reality. Then I'm going to go to this first thing. What thoughts do I need to have or adjust for this intention to work? You're supposed to have a word or a line there, right? Take this, tie it once, and as you're pulling it, think or say that one word. So the thoughts that I need to have are, this is a place that people want to come to grow and to learn. So you're going to have your own thoughts and words there. So you just tied that first knot. Then we're going to go down. What is the inner and outer dialogue? So what are our words? We got our thoughts right. Now what are our words? You should have your words there. Bind them up as well. Tie those words, inner and outer, to your own self. Beliefs. You should have a word or a phrase about what we believe connected with this. We're going to tie that in as well. And then the last one, what are our actions? And so we're going to decide what actions we're tying ourselves to. We can speak them, we can think them, so long as we're just putting them in that little loop, tightening it right up. So you should have a string that represents your intention, and with that, in that intention, you have bound up the proper thoughts, the proper words, the proper actions, and the proper beliefs. Now we're going to take it. This is our fuel cell for the intention that we're putting out there. This is the thing that we're going to use to charge up the intention that we've got. So we said 7 directions, right? Now we take it, put the string, hold it with your thumb, down on one end. Once for the earth, once for Sky Father, once for ourself. Then tie your knots to your stick. So in that case, just take it out and tie it with 3 little knots on the outside, because you're honoring all 7 of those directions. Now, when you go home, you're going to take this, go back over your list. You're going to sit and really think through all of the parts of this. What is it you're trying to manifest? Why are you trying to manifest? What is the part that matters? What stands in the way? What are the thoughts? What are the beliefs? What are the actions? What are all of this? And then I want you to decide how you're going to actually use this. Palo Santos is called holy wood or holy stick. You actually light it. I don't guess I have a lighter. Just like our candle that we talked about, if we light this, we can see how wood and fire, or the fire, transforms wood into heat, into smoke. It's going to char the end. We see an actual transformation interchange. And while it's there, I'm going to be picturing every single thing that I'm wanting. I'm saying the words, I'm going over my list. I might decide to chant, I might decide to beat a drum, I might decide to go with my rain stick to bring all the opportunities. Then I'm going to allow this to represent all of that rising up, and this smoke is going out into the creational force of the universe. And when I take my next big deep breath, I am actually drawing all of that inside of myself, and it is literally becoming a part of me. So I can take this, I can do, it'll burn itself out very quickly. Palo Santos, this will go for just a minute, and then it'll go out on its own. You can put it in a fireproof dish or an ashtray, a little salt in a cup, works very nicely. This is something you can use for the next month, every single day, to reaffirm your intentions. What it is that you set here, you're walking out with a full and complete spell, prayer, string on a stick, that you can take out and use time after time, day after day, until that intention becomes real, until you actually see it manifest. My recommendation at that point would be to take it all and offer it back to nature. The thank you is, I don't need this anymore. And let it go. Don't repurpose it. Get a fresh stick. Tie some fresh knots. Now, do you have to use the stick? No. You can sit there and, you want to talk about the mother of all knot magic? Sit down and crochet an afghan while holding a single focus and thought the whole time you do it. Knot after knot after knot, creating something while you're doing it that literally covers you.
I love it. I crochet.
Yeah. Coloring books. When I want, it'll be a while because I love my Jeep, but when I decide I want a new one, I'll go and buy a Hot Wheels Jeep that is exactly the thing that I want, so I'll have a picture of it right there. I have to tell them about the most recent one. Jan was over at the house one night, we were all being silly, and I love Thor, not just the Marvel Thor, but Chris Hemsworth, but not just the Marvel Thor. But I have a hammer of Thor on my hand. It's what I originally called my spirit guide when I was a kid. So I have a couple of Thor action figures at the house. because I'm a boy, it's not a doll. And so I'm in the back room and I see it and I was like, I've ignored Thor. I bring this thing out, set it on my mantle, shake my rattle at it, and I go, let's see what that does. Next week, Candace, teaches here, messaged me. You know, I'm connected with Rescue One. We just got this amazing dog. He is perfect for you. He's a German Shepherd. He is the most perfect boy. You have to have him. His name's Thor. After, let's see what Thor lived with us the next week. Became a permanent fixture in my life from there. I was doing a workshop once on this and I had an actual wand. And I was talking about manifesting a dog. You know, if you want a dog. And I kept saying, you want a dog and you're trying to get a dog. And I was trying to make a point of the reason this doesn't work is because this moment has already been created. You can't light the candle and something just magically appear because we've already created this moment by everything that led up to this moment. We have to create the moments that are coming up energetically. So I was doing this, dog. The woman that evidently was in the trajectory of the wall was like, stop, I have enough dogs. Quit. And it's because she was absolutely convinced that if we kept that up, there's going to be a dog that showed up in her life. Now, the part that of course, everything's a teachable moment. I went on and explained to her that having an emotional reaction to the possibility of that happening was the very thing that was going to make sure it did happen. Which, of course, made her more emotional. She's probably got a whole kennel by now. One of the biggest things I would love for people to get out of this, and these are all just simple things. There are any number of things that you can use. And the more meaning you place, this is an incense holder. And the reason I picked this one out of all the ones in the store over there is because it's got an ohm on it. My intention was increase the yoga, the studio. That's our symbol. That's on our business card. It's on our logo. It's on our website. It's on everything. It's the ohm. And it is the sound of creation. That's what the ohm means. And so that's layered of why I would pick that one, why I would want it to be that. One last one in closing, because I think this is one we could all do anytime. There's an article I read years ago, and they do it much better than I do, but you don't limit it to this. It was a spell of how to make a friend of a neighbor. And it was very well written. It was, you take the skin of a chicken and cook it in the cauldron, and then you go and gather the root vegetables under the moonlight and you add them, and then you add the water. You make chicken soup and you take it to your neighbor. But why would you just make chicken soup? Why would you not infuse everything that went in there with the same level of intention? I could take you soup, or I could take you a pot of energetic intention. I talk about it all the time around here. You can scramble eggs, or you can scramble eggs for God. You can do an everyday activity, or you can do it with purpose and meaning. You can vacuum your floor, or you can clean your sacred temple. It's all a matter of how you frame it in your mind. And if you take that second choice instead of the first one, everything begins to have a whole lot of meaning. And we're starting to manifest things just by the way we look at them. My home is a temple. I believe that so fully. You should see what happens when people come to the door asking me to go to their church. The last one, I looked at him very nicely and I said, I assume that because you've come to my house of worship talking about your beliefs, that I can show up at your church because you did invite me, and I can come up front and talk about my beliefs. Well, no, we couldn't let you do that. I said, then why do you have the audacity to be standing in my place of worship talking your language? They got the point. I wasn't against them. We started out with, no thank you. They should have taken no thank you, because it was the intention. And I kept putting energy into it until it manifested. Have fun with it. Play with it. We all get so darn serious. We say spirituality and we all get so intense and uptight and everything. start by trying to manifest a fun day. Parents, I assume? Some parents here? You getting ready to go do something with the kids that the kids aren't going to be crazy about? Set the intention, put the energy into it, figure out the way to create that bridge between what you're feeling and where they're feeling. Figure out how to energetically move it that way. Not to manipulate them, to try and help them to understand and to see and to realize, and maybe to show you what is the one piece that's missing that would do that for them. Get to where you're thinking in a magical or creational mindset with everything that's there, because you're doing it all the time anyway. I'm just so stupid, I don't know why this stuff keeps happening to... Well, you just said why. And I can prove it by the fact you're calling yourself that. It's one of the stupidest things you could do. Well, I don't know if I deserve it, but I'm going to try anyway. Bet you don't get it. I wish I could. Well, I wish you could too. Meanwhile, I'm gonna. That's the difference. That is the whole difference. I do want to bring this one in because I do love when I can take spiritual passages and rewrite them. This is kind of a big deal. I should probably include this a little bit more. When Moses is standing at the Red Sea, he did not look at it and say, if it's no imposition and not too big of a deal, could you let us through? Do you mind? He commanded the seas to part, and it parted. There's another story about he cast down the rod and it turns into a serpent. He didn't go, if it's no imposition, could you do your trick? He cast it down with expectation. Last thing we need to talk about. Intentions are thought. Expectations are a power. I can sum it up very simply. A woman that intends to get pregnant feels very different than one that's expecting a child. When she's expecting a child, she knows it's an eventuality. She knows it's going to be real. She knows it's going to be there. It's a fact, and we just have to wait for it to materialize in the physical world out in front of you. And you can see everything shifting and changing the whole time. She's getting bigger. That's way different than intending to have a kid. So if you get to the point where you can expect, absolute expect whatever's there. When I said Harley, I expected one to show up. Why wouldn't it? They exist, they're everywhere. I love when people try to manifest money. Think about this. This is such a little mental trick. You want to manifest more money in your life? Start by realizing how much there is. There are over 500 units of apartments back there behind us. There's a pretty foofy subdivision over here. So within 2 miles of where we are, because we get down in some nice houses over there too. Within 2 miles of where we are literally millions and millions of dollars. Within 2 miles of where we are, there are thousands of dollars in nightstands and couch cushions. We haven't even talked about the banks that are within 2 miles. There's that much money within 2 miles of here. And you're worried about how to get more in your life? It's called currency. It flows. It's energy. If you realize that all it does is circulate, and you allow yourself to realize, go back to everything we talked about, most people say they want to draw money to themselves. I want more money. Why? Don't you mean you want what more money would allow you to do or have? Isn't that what we're really saying? Because having money, after a certain point, you can't tell a difference. I mean, you can look at numbers and stuff. But what we're really wanting is the ability to do something because of money. So I don't ever picture money coming to me. I picture money coming through me to whatever I want. I'm trying to manifest money for new clothes. I'm trying to manifest money to pay my bills. I'm manifesting money to take a vacation this year. I'm manifesting money for all sorts of things that I'm doing. I'm trying to manifest money for all those other people, not for me. And because of that, I don't have to be attached to the money whatsoever. Anybody that knows me on a personal level knows that I will sit here with, well, this place we're in, I remember the day I looked at Scott and I said, I'm going to open a yoga studio. And he goes, we don't have any money. He goes, it'll be fun to watch how you do it. Because he knew I would. And it didn't matter. Because I didn't need my money. Deepak Chopra, getting ready to do a $1 million book deal. He personally needed $1 million to make the deal go. His assistant looked at him and said, where's that money going to come from? And Deepak looked at him and said, wherever it is right now. Why worry about it? Just decide what you want, expect it to be there, and it will. If you guys have any simple questions, shoot me a line, let me know what's going on. If you've got something more complex, book in with Jan or me, get online, check out the scheduler, and come do some yoga. Thanks for coming, everybody. I appreciate y'all.